welcome. Let me adjust this up a little bit so I don't get my head chopped off. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday, November the 29th, 2021. Hopefully, everyone in America enjoyed their Thanksgiving holiday, start to the holiday season, and hopefully, no one had any strife or any arguments. Hello, Tina Kirkpatrick on Facebook. Hopefully nobody had any strife or arguments, but that is oftentimes the case over the holidays, because when people who aren't healed and delivered get together, then typically someone might say something that could hurt the other person. So I pray that you weren't involved in any strife, any arguments, but it happens because we're people. And most people aren't healed, most people aren't delivered. So anyway, welcome to everyone. Happy November the 29th. Only one more day of November. I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Today is 57 degrees and sunshiny. Supposed to be in the 60s and then 70s on late on the day, maybe Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday in the 70s. So actually just decided to go to the North Georgia mountains on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So get some hiking in and some continuing to do sessions. Also, I'll let you guys know that I am doing personal sessions for people. I'm also doing mentoring because a lot of people have asked, say, hey, can you help me learn what you know about healing and deliverance, working with people that are psychiatrists, people that are counselors, and people that want to help people that are lay people too, that just know that this understanding about how to get people healed and delivered needs to be done, especially for those in the church, so that they can behave like a true Christian, godly Christians, and so forth. So anyways, I will say this because I've got my Purdue shirt on, that my Purdue Boilermakers won in football 44-7 against their arch rivals Indiana, IU. Sorry about that, Bob Mann. He went to IU, and Purdue finished 8-4, so they're going to a decent bowl game. We'll find out, I guess, this weekend where they're going to go. And then their basketball team won on Friday against an Omaha team that didn't even know that Omaha had a basketball team, but apparently they do, and Purdue beat them 97-40, so it was over by halftime. But we'll find out today, in about 30 minutes, what the new rankings are, if Purdue took over the #1 ranking, or if Duke, because Duke upset the #1 team, Gonzaga, and Purdue will be at least #3. They'll probably be #2 or maybe #1, so we'll find out. My preference actually is that they'll be like, I don't know, #3, and that way they'll have continue to play with a determination of trying to be the #1 team in the country. So anyway, they have a great team this year, as long as they don't get injured. We always seem to get injuries like ACL tears and so forth, so praying against that. So anyway, hopefully you had a lot of fun on Thanksgiving. So I did a lot of walking because I love to walk and hike, love to exercise. I just do. And I looked at my numbers. I'm a numbers guy, a stat guy. And on Friday, I think it was 10.4 miles that I walked. And then Saturday was like 9.4. I think yesterday was 9.7. And on a couple of those walks, took Lily, the dog. Lily was tuckered out last night, but she got her exercise on, and is looking rather svelte for a Chiweenie. She's part Chihuahua, part Dachshund. So, and she also, I'm going to share this. This is really a good testimony, really, of what happens when a person gets healed and delivered, and animals. So animals can also be hurt and abused when they're puppies. And the history of what we know about Lily, the dog, is that she was found in the middle of a road next to a cemetery. And when the lady went out to pick up and rescue the dog, Lily jumped into her arms. And Lily was very skittish when it came to being around people and dogs, and would stay to herself. Well, now in the last year, Lily has taken a tour all over America, has enjoyed, walking on the beach, Cannon Beach in Oregon. Most of the beaches, at least what I've found is in California and Oregon, is they encourage people to take their dogs to the beach and let them off the leash so they can run and have fun. So Lily, of course, went and traveled all over the West Coast and Midwest from May until August, and now she enjoys when she sees the dog coming on a trail. Like, I took her on a trail on Saturday, and she enjoyed sniffing the dog's noses. Normally in the past she would be afraid, and now it's like she has no fear. And so going through healing and deliverance is, number one, you need to stop getting abused. If you're in a relationship with someone that they continue to yell at you and treat you poorly and put you down, they don't have to yell. They just have to speak negative to you all the time to put you down, making you feel bad, and lying about you and trying to brainwash you and declare that you are bad, or you are dumb, or you are incapable, which is what demonic spirits want to say to a person to try to tear them down. And when you're away from that, and you can forgive those who hurt you, then it's like the past. It happened, but you don't have any negative effects from it anymore. So that's really the case with Lily, is that she is being loved and she is flourishing now. And so for anyone that's ever picked up an animal that they rescued, oftentimes they do feel like they've been beaten down. A lot of times they have been beaten, whether it's verbally or whether it's physically. And then they are afraid. And then once they're away from that abuse, and once they are loved, then they can flourish. And Lily is a great example of that. So, yay! Also, for those of you that have not written any reviews of any of my books yet on Amazon, I'm just, I guess, I don't know what you call this, shouting out, but for the speaking out. But if you haven't written any reviews and you've read some of my books, I would appreciate if you could write a review on Amazon. It only takes, 2 minutes. Just go out there to Amazon.com, search for my name if you want, Nelson Schumann. You can find one of my 10 books that's out there, and then just click on whatever book that you've read and then post. I'll say this, on my Restored to Freedom book, which was my first book that I ever came out with, I had a lot of reviews, and then all of a sudden they started deleting the reviews. I think they've deleted over 30 now, and it's got 275, 278, something like that, reviews. So it was weird, because some of the people are they weren't getting any explanation. Some people were getting explanations saying that it was just too good to be true. They couldn't possibly have had their lives changed dramatically and so forth by reading a book. So I guess I don't know what to say about that. It's it's weird. And I've had some people that have written about my new book, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons, and they said that their review has not showed up, and they posted it, and in some cases maybe Amazon's deleting it. So I don't know. I would hope that that's not happening, but I know that it does. I had a lot of reviews on my Restored to Freedom page on Facebook, and a lot of them were also deleted, the great positive reviews. So I'm like, okay, we'll do our best. So anyway, if you have and read one of my books and you feel led by the Lord to write a review, then great. I appreciate that. It just helps others to be encouraged to read certain books as well. All right, my breakthrough tour continues. The next thing I'm doing is December the 14th. I'll be on the Atlanta Live TV show in Atlanta, Georgia, Channel 57. I think it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. And last time I was first on the show as far as being interviewed, so I'm not sure if I will be again or not. It's on, I think, a Tuesday night, December the 14th. So anyway, that's a couple weeks away. And then December 26th, day after Christmas, Worldwide Deliverance Session on Facebook and YouTube. January 15th, Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center in Atlanta, Georgia, a breakthrough event. January 29th at the Marriott Birmingham in Birmingham, Alabama. January 30th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. February 19th, Courtyard by Marriott in Orlando, Lake Mary, Florida. And February 27th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. March 5th, Residence Inn at Opryland in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'll be adding some more. I guess I'm focused now on doing a couple of personal sessions, private sessions a week. I do, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6. So if that's something that the Lord is leading you to do, we have seen some really good results from people. Some of them just watched like for a couple of weeks. I had one guy that he called the Focus on the Family, if you're familiar with Focus on the Family and James Dobson, and they referred them to me. And I was like, wow, that's great. You know, it's neat to see the ministry continuing to grow because there's great results. You know, if I didn't see the results, I wouldn't be doing this. You know, if I'm just here and wanting to make people feel happy, whatever, that's great, but I want to see results. I'm a business guy, former business guy. And if we didn't see results, then I wouldn't be working for them. I worked my whole career in business up until 2000 and what was it, 15, and then switched into ministry mode because the Lord had been wanting me to do that, training me for about 6 years. Went through some extreme stuff. It wasn't fun to go through, but yet it laid the groundwork for what we're seeing now. And it's hard to do a ministry when you're basically learning that a lot of people in the church apparently aren't saved. And I thought they were, but just because they went to church. But apparently Matthew 7, really 15 through 23, but Matthew 7, 20 through 23 talks about, you know, if you're not doing the Lord's will, if you don't have a good heart, godly heart, mind, if you don't have fruit of the Spirit, that's the barometer. Do you have fruit of the Spirit? Now I understand if you're dying in bed and you make a change at that point, you don't have any time to have any fruit. But there's so many people in the church that have gone there for years that harm people, that are mean to people, that are mean to their husbands or wives or their children. And it's because they're hearing demonic spirits. They have soul wounds. So anyways, that's really the topic of the day too, is stop looking through the window and start looking into the mirror. Because there's so many people, I have so many examples, real life examples, my own personal examples, even my own life, but so many people that they have a relationship with someone, and if they're not healed of their wounds, then they're going to go off on people that don't do what they want, and they're going to believe that everything that they say or that they do is right because the demons are telling them that everything that they say and do is right, when in reality, a lot of the things, if not most of the things that they say and do are wrong, and that aren't godly. They don't produce godly fruit, and the person's not nice. They're not gentle. They're not loving. They're not peaceful. You can't fake peace. You can't fake gentleness. You can't fake humility. That is a core trait of who a person really is inside, and that's how the Lord measures us. It's not about the works, because there's a lot of people that are in the church that are hurting people, that are corrupt, that do good works to make themselves look good. So it's the fruit. Who are they really? The Lord knows who they are in their heart, in their mind. Do they have joy? Are they peaceful? Are they loving? Are they kind? Are they gentle? Do they have self-control? So here's what happens essentially, is we grow up, and as we're growing up, we're going to get hurt and wounded, some way worse than others. I've heard horrible stories. All it takes is someone to touch you sexually, or expose themselves to you, or to show pornography to you, or to talk down to you, be negative to you, and that wounds you. So all of us have had wounds. All of us really need delivered from those wounds. Because what happens when we get hurt and wounded is we will have demonic spirits have legal rights to torment us, speak to us, because we've got a little bit of anger, a little bit of bitterness going on, unfair treatment. You know, it's not injustices, I guess. And as we get hurt and wounded, we come into the church, we can ask Jesus into our hearts, we can pray in tongues, we can prophesy, but we can still have demons. that have legal rights to us because our soul has been harmed, our minds, our will, our emotions. We're hearing a lot of demonic stuff, and we still have anger and bitterness in our hearts for people that have hurt us and wronged us. Even though if we come to the church and we ask, we say we forgive people, but if we don't truly forgive them from our hearts, then those demons have legal rights to keep tormenting us. So a lot of Christians struggle with hearing demons, a lot of leaders, a lot of pastors' wives, and it's a problem. It's a huge problem. So what do the demons do? Well, if you think about Leviathan, which is pride, Job 41, Job verse 41, Job chapter 41, verse 34, says it's king over all the children of pride. So people that get hurt and wounded will have that Leviathan spirit speak to them, telling them that all of their decisions that they make are right. Anyone that comes against them is wrong. So therefore they trigger and they go off on people, and then they'll accuse those people of being bad, when in reality, they are the ones. So it's really hard, though, for them to look at themselves in the mirror. They want to. It's much easier to blame everyone else. I see this all the time, where you have a man or a woman that goes off on people if you don't do what they want, and then they blame you. You're the one that's bad. You're the reason why I triggered. If it wasn't for you, I'd always be nice, but it's because of you. And there's truths both ways. But the people that have been hurt and wounded more are going to not see truth. They're going to have a fictional reality where the demons convince them that everything that they said and everything that they did is right, and everything that anyone that comes against them is wrong. So it's really hard to get them delivered. Plus, they're going to have pride. And if you've ever been around a prideful person, it's almost impossible to address something and confront them with an issue that they have, because their pride will block them from ever admitting that there's anything wrong with what they've done. And I see this all the time in a couple. If I do a couple session, you'll have one person struggles more with that spirit of Jezebel. Could be considered narcissism, or they're very prideful. And then the other person that's more gentle and loving, that person loves the person way more, typically is how it works, than those that have Jezebel. Those that have Jezebel want to simply control their victim and then blame them for everything that they don't do in accordance with what they believe is right. And so it's really hard to speak to that person and say, hey, you know what? Guess what? You're actually wrong. And what you're saying and doing is actually wrong, and you need to change. And they'll get mad and angry at you. They'll take an offense at the drop of a hat because of the pride. So that pride blocks them from seeing the truth in the mirror of themselves. I remember one guy that I got to meet along the road in America, that he was like a country music singer, traveled all over the place, and he had a lot of broken relationships. Well, he said that one day he decided to look in the mirror at himself. And he said, you know what? I'm the reason why all these relationships didn't work. And that takes a real man or a real woman to say that, okay, I had some issues. I needed to address them. I can say that about my life. I needed to change. Wouldn't have thought. I'm like, I'm a Christian. I'm so Christian and godly and so forth. But there were things that I had struggled with that I needed to address. Well, I couldn't really do it until I could actually look in the mirror and say, okay, Lord, show me what's in my life that needs to be changed. So when you can get to that point, which a lot of people in the church can't, those that are very prideful, it's like impossible, it seems like, to get them to look in the mirror at themselves. And they'll go through church their whole lives, and they'll treat normally their spouse and their kids poorly, and they'll hurt and wound them. And they have a broken, wounded spouse that would love no more than for their controlling, abusive spouse to humble themselves and admit that they have some issues. You can go into counseling sessions. I've seen this, where one person that's more prideful, that's been hurt more oftentimes, but then they hurt their spouse, comes in the counseling session and wants to be like, they can act like they're a victim, and oftentimes they will, and they were normally a victim when they grew up, but they sure can't admit the truth of the things that they do. And if you try to bring it up in a session, they'll either raise their voice or try to take control over that conversation. They cannot stand it for the truth to be told about their behavior. So, and that's the truth. So, all right. So I've got some Bible verses here that I think are very apropos. James 1:22-24 says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like." So there's a lot of people who've been hurt, wounded, and they trigger and they go off on people, and they've got a lot of pride, and they don't want to admit. It's hard for them to admit that they make mistakes, that they do bad things. Oftentimes it's because when they grew up, if they did make a mistake, it could be a father or mother that grilled them, that got very upset at them, and that there is nothing that they could do to be right in their eyes. So they strive as much as they can to believe that everything that they say and do is perfect, so that they don't have to actually relive those wounds all over again in growing up. All right, let me go on. Lamentations 3:40. "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." So many people, it's very hard for us to look in the mirror at ourselves. And what you can do is just say, "Heavenly Father, show me, is there anything in me that needs to be changed?" And actually truly mean it. Those that are the most prideful won't do that. They're like, "Oh no, I'm perfect, or as close as possible, so therefore there's nothing that I need to change." When in reality, there's always normally room for improvement, things that need to be changed and chiseled. It's just how willing are we to look in the mirror versus looking outwards in the through the window. I think about when you drive. You're driving, you're looking through the window, and it's so much easier as you're driving to not glance up to the rearview mirror and look at yourself. If there's something that you've done that you're ashamed of, that you feel convicted by the Holy Spirit that, "Oh my gosh, I really shouldn't have said that or done that," it's really hard to look in the mirror, rearview mirror, at yourself and say, "Show me, is there something that I need to change? Take this from me. I don't want to behave like this anymore." There's so many people that struggle. You think about all these rehab centers all over the place, and do they oftentimes get to the deliverance part of the demon part and the forgiveness part? A lot of them know about the forgiveness part to some degree, but very few of them, if any, ever deal with the demonic deliverance part, and that is life-changing. That's why we are seeing some great results, but it takes time for a person to be honest, to be able to look at the mirror. There's a lot of times there's things we don't want to give up yet to the Lord, to let Him be the Lord of our lives. There's a lot of addictions that people have. They don't want to give those up. Nope, I'll give everything to the Lord, but this, and this. I will not cut back on, watching things I should not be watching. I don't want to give that up yet. Or I don't want to give up. Could be smoking, could be drinking, could be overeating, could be even over-exercising. Where we're working out, 4 hours a day. There's people that are, with food, trying to control themselves through like not eating and putting pressure on themselves, or overeating, gluttony. So, in sexuality, there's a lot of things going on that are not pure, and people struggle. That's why when I take a person through a personal session, I'll take them back, say, and this happens all the time. I just had another, a session where a person gets touched by, in this case, it was a young boy got touched by an older boy, and then he struggled with homosexuality after that. Well, that's not who that little boy truly is. But if those demonic spirits transfer when any type of sexual stuff happens, then that explains why. If a little girl gets oftentimes touched by another girl, she can turn towards being a lesbian at that point, or she'll at the minimum struggle normally with sexual purity. And that's what's wrong with this country. That's why we need to go through inner healing and deliverance. All right, Matthew 7:3-5. That's just what's wrong with the world. Matthew 7:3-5. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So again, there's so many people that I see that struggle with the stronger spirits of Jezebel, would be considered a narcissist, that they will accuse others of being a narcissist or a Jezebel when they themselves need to look in the mirror. And there's nothing that we can do at that point to get the person healed and delivered. Nothing that Jesus could have done. Think about the Pharisees and the scribes. They were very prideful and they were very arrogant. He couldn't get them delivered. They hated him. They were jealous of him. So, hello, Franklin Dale Thomas, Captain O'Captain. I've been seeing the pictures on Facebook. If you're going up and down with the various, are those called barges? I don't know, but things that you are taking up and down. All right. And you can read, I'm not going to read it again, I've read this a lot, but Galatians 5:16-26. If you read that, it explains all the fruit of the flesh versus fruit of the Spirit. And it says that if you are regularly practicing those fruits of the flesh, the sexual impurities, idolatry, being controlling, manipulative, arguing, dissensions, partying stuff, that you're not going to inherit the kingdom of God. So again, there's a lot of people that struggle with that in the church, call themselves Christians, but they don't have the fruit of the Spirit, which talks about the fruit of the Spirit. So there you go. All right, I'm going to give a word to Franklin Dale Thomas. I feel like the Lord wants me to do that. So, all right. Okay. The Lord just says, my love, I am so proud of you, for you are truly a man of God in every way. And in your daily walk, there are many that come across your path who have struggled with their soul wounds, with walking in purity and godliness. But you have always been an encourager to those who have been hurt and wounded. For there is no judgmentalness, there is no pridefulness within you, but there is love. And that you are reaching the people before you that need to hear the truth, to learn to understand how to forgive. And you are loving on them like I want you to love on them. So I am proud of you, my son, and I am encouraging you today to continue to encouraging others. And I'm getting ready to set you up in a different position with more authority than you could ever imagine. Watch what I do for you, for I've seen what you have done in private, and I'm ready to put you on a new stage. Love the Lord. All righty. Well, that was a good word. So we thank you. I'll just say this too, that prophecy, at least from what I've heard words from for people, yeah, it does tend to want to be an encouragement at all times. But can you imagine those who are operating in the spirits of Jezebel, who are controlling and who are mean? Sometimes the Lord will give people like them a corrective word. And those aren't fun to receive. There's a lot of those people that are very prideful, that want to go from place to place and hear all these words. And it was interesting, over the weekend, I think it was yesterday, I listened to an interview with Mario Murillo from, I think it was Wednesday. And he had talked about how 2022 be a year of repentance where people need to focus on repenting, humbling themselves. That's exactly what our ministry is all about, of course, is helping people to look in the mirror at themselves, to identify those things that need to go, and to be willing to be honest, to forgive those who have hurt them. And so it's important, critically important, for all of us to look in the mirror and say, Lord, if there's anything in there that needs to go, please show me. And then be honest enough to receive that word and to change. Forgiveness is a huge blocker of people getting healed and delivered, as well as pride. And it was interesting, I had heard at the beginning of the interview, it said that Mario was planning to move his ministry. I know he used to be in San Francisco, and then he moved to Reno, Nevada, and they mentioned how he's going to be moving across the country. So I was trying to figure out where he's moving to. And it's interesting because the Lord had given me that word a couple weeks ago about God is in the process of moving and repositioning his people in different states, different places where they can be even more effective. And they alluded to he was going to be moving across the country, so I don't know where, but going from Reno, which is more farther, of course, on the West Coast, than being centrally located, is interesting. So, anyways, I guess that's it. All right, I will let you guys go and see you on Facebook and YouTube.